Works Authority. I apologize late. For the record, those present are myself in the room with Commissioner Martinez. Commissioner Chalco is on the phone, I believe, online. Okay. Mike, are you there? Well, I believe he's okay. So let's start. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, I'm Chris Budassi, Assistant General Manager of Administration, currently Acting General Manager. The first item on the agenda is Resolution 01-2023, and this is relative to the approval of the Southern SSES Rehabilitation Phase 2 construction contract. We're requesting an increase to this project's budget. The location of the project itself is in the Hyundai subdivision in Santa Rita, and it's a new sewer lift station down there. The request for additional funding is for two things. One is to provide funding for change order 10, and the second request is for a contingency related to some additional work required by the SHPO. Change order 10 is going to install a davit crane, a solids basket, and a concrete standing pad at the sewer lift station to assist with performing future preventive maintenance. The original design for the lift station did not include any of these features. The total required amount for change order 10 is $70,000. There is remaining $18,561 of existing contingency, which will be applied to change order 10, leaving the additional funding required to complete change order 10 at $51,438. As I mentioned, Pro-Pacific will be starting additional archaeological activities required by the SHPO. The second request is for a contingency to cover an additional 20 days of work by Pro-Pacific if there are any artifacts found during their additional work that they're doing. The amount of the contingency we're requesting for that is, I believe, $42,000. Combining that with the additional $51,000 for change order 10, the total requested amount is $93,681.09. This raises the total value of the contract to $1,402,477. And this is a US EPA grant-funded project, and these two additional items have already been reviewed and approved by US EPA.
Okay, are there any questions?
Okay.
I have no question. Commissioner Martinez?
No, I just wanted original amount of 70,000. These projects normally have.
So I think when the original design was done, this wasn't included in it. And so after the sewer lift station went into construction, our operations team got with our engineering team and suggested that these things be added so that future preventive maintenance would be, they'd be able to perform that at the lift station.
Yeah, our lift stations, for the record, Chris, or Tom, our lift stations are deep holes down in the ground where the pumps are. So that's why it's advisable if you can have some sort of overhead crane that can move equipment in and out down there. They're deep holes.
Yeah.
So that's the reason. And I guess they didn't think of it when they originally designed the work. Do you want to say something? Microphone?
Provide some more information on the design. The pumps are equipped with lifting chains, but as Chris said, when operations went out to do the inspection, we found there was a safer way for them to remove the pumps more efficiently and again more safely. So that's what the crane will provide. Easier methodology and more efficient. It'll save time and be safer for the operations.
Okay.
So
Okay.
right now, also we're looking at getting a more standardized design together so that we catch these details in the design stage and make sure that future stations that are built or rehabbed will have the same capability.
Yeah, we're entering into the next phase of projects, and there are going to be a lot of projects for the sewer lift stations that are either going to be rehabbed or are going to be built from new on the ground up. So, that's one of the things that we're learning. You're going to have to standardize these designs for all your lift stations.
Yes, we're definitely going to have to look at operability to make it safer for the crew and easier. So these pumps can weigh quite a bit.
Yes,
So
no, I know. I've actually gone and seen some of your lift pumps. That's why I know how deep they are. I look down and go, oh my gosh. And when it gets messy down there, you don't want to be down there. But that's okay. Okay, Commissioner Mchalko, do you have any questions? No? Okay, thank you. Moving right along.
Okay,
Chris,
the
next
next
item.
issue for decision is Resolution 02 FY 2023 relative to the approval of funding increase to the IQ contract for JMI Edison for submersible pumps and motors for deep wells. At this time, we're requesting to table this item until the next meeting, to the CCU meeting next week, because we're still gathering some information related to that resolution.
So, when you get all the information, if you can, it's good to send it to us in an email ahead of time. Update the board books and then send us an email saying you can now see it. That way we can read it at least before we get to the meeting on Tuesday night if we have any questions.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you have one more item.
Yes, sir. One more item, Resolution 0323, relative to requesting approval to procure construction services related to the Ugum Surface Water Treatment Plant rehabilitation. The Ugum Surface Water Treatment Plant was originally constructed in 1991 and was retrofitted about 15 years ago to operate using membrane filtration treatment, which went into effect in 2011. The GWA Master Plan includes capital improvement refurbishment of the Ugum Surface Water Treatment Plant. And so as preparing for that, since 2015, there's been 3 different assessments done at the plant itself. The first was done by Brown and Caldwell in 2015. There was a second one performed by DuPont in 2021. And the last assessment was completed last year by DCA, which incorporated the first 2 assessments in with its own review. And the conclusion of all 3 assessments was that the plant is in really poor working condition and it needs some significant rehabilitation. The project's urgently needed to ensure that the plant is able to provide reliable and safe drinking water to the southern part of the island. And as part of DCA's work, they also provided the engineer's estimate for how much the rehabilitation will cost, and that number came in at $4,205,500. We're asking for an additional 10% or $420,550 to be included for contingency funding should any additional expenses be required. And we are also seeking your approval to submit a petition to the PUC for approval of the procurement of materials and construction services with an anticipated value exceeding the $1 million level. Sure. Funding source for this project would be GWA bond funds.
Okay. Any questions? Commissioner Martinez?
No, I'm not too familiar with the whole thing, but I'd like to go out and see that.
Ugum?
Sure,
Yes.
absolutely.
I've been to Ugam, but with the additional that we're putting on.
Have you
So I
actually
can
toured the
understand.
treatment plant?
Yeah.
You've to the treatment plant, yeah, okay.
But right now, I can't picture where.
What the additional money is
Maybe
going
one
to?
of these days.
Sure,
Sure, we'll arrange that.
Yeah, certainly. Okay, Commissioner Mchalko? Any questions? No? Okay, thank you. Those are the items that I see on your agenda. Do you have anything you want to tell us in terms of a management audit management report?
We can go through the management GM report if you like.
Okay.
All right. First slide on the GM report is the workforce availability. Currently, workforce availability is at 96.7%. We've got a handful of people that are sick, but in general, very healthy and reporting for work. Next slide is the operations update for production. Production remained relatively the same since the previous month, averaging about 39.3 gallons, 39.3 million gallons a day. The Tuman Maui well production in September was steady at about 1 million gallons a day. Next slide is the water booster pump stations. Operability at 96.6%, which is remaining steady after some improvements were made back in May. So we're maintaining that level, which is good. The distribution tank levels for September, you'll see in the second week of September, we had some issues with the northern tanks. They dipped below 25% during that period. This was due to multiple wells tripping or grounding that affected the Estumbo and GWA tanks. At the same time, Y15, one of our higher producing wells, also grounded, and that affected the Santa Rosa zone. We were able to maintain service and recover without anybody losing their water service.
Okay.
All right. Next slide is wastewater collections pump stations. They've also sustained some recent improvements in operability level, and it's holding steady at 91.2%.
Okay.
CCTV inspection and sewer cleaning for September was 2.76 miles, which is about 50% of our general target. Even though we were below target for September, over the 9-month period, we're at 73.28% of target. So we're on track to complete our required 61.3 miles for the year.
Okay.
Wastewater treatment sludge cost for September was $25,750, and the wastewater treatment plant flows were a bit higher than August, and likely due to the higher rain that we experienced.
Heavy rain.
And next slide is the
Asset management.
which one is this? Preventive maintenance. Sorry. Lost my slide here. The next one is asset management, equipment, preventive maintenance to corrective maintenance ratio. Currently, we're at 73% for preventive maintenance on the equipment and 27% for corrective maintenance. As far as the work order completion goes, we're at 93% for corrective maintenance and 85% for preventive maintenance.
Okay.
Next slide. This is corrective maintenance work order ratio for leak repairs versus equipment repair. Right now, we're at 54% of work orders for leak repair and 46% for equipment corrective maintenance. And then the next item is for the leak repair completions, we're at 98% of all work orders that went out. And next slide is the court-ordered items. This one we're still holding at 97.8% with the remaining tank projects soon coming online. Okay. And then there's the additional timeline of what's happening with the court-ordered status. Next slide.
Okay.
Next slide is the land acquisition summary. For this one, there was just a couple items that were changed since the last time. For the Estumbo tank, Department of Land Management responded, and there's still a pending item with their legal counsel. And then the booster pump station, second appraisal was submitted to GWA, and the appraisal is currently under review with the general manager.
Okay. Everything else is status quo?
Comparison, the leaks reported and leaks repaired, status quo on September. It looks like coming in at about the same as the previous month. And The last slides are related to accounts receivables. So the residential accounts receivable past due for 60 days is ticked up a little bit in September for residential customers, but still tracking well below pre-COVID levels.
Okay.
And the commercial customer accounts similarly is tracking about the same over the last 6 months, very much lower than during the COVID period.
Okay.
Right? And CFO will go over the financial.
Holly?
Good morning. The first slide is a snapshot of our key financial indicators. We're anticipating that we'll end the year with a 1.3 debt service coverage ratio, assuming there are no large audit adjustments for the end of the year. And speaking of audits, I wanted to mention that we did have our initial meeting with our new auditors, Ernst & Young, a couple weeks ago, and today we'll be having our entrance meeting with the OPA. The public law that was just passed requires autonomous agencies to transfer funding for the audits to DOA for the OPA's oversight, and transfers oversight of the audit to the OPA. Not quite sure how this is going to work out, but we might have a little more clarification after today's meeting.
Okay. And for the record, the audits are supposed to be completed by?
They're not on June 30, but, OPA is requiring them to be done by the end of February.
Okay. But what does the law require? Is there a law is there a requirement by law? None.
Well, the June 30 is typically the date.
Oh, okay.
I believe the law might say March.
Okay.
I'll have to double check.
Okay.
And it's primarily to give the legislature some, to inform them about any surpluses or
Sure.
deficits in
This is
the government.
government-wide.
Right.
This is government-wide.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
although they get financial statements monthly,
Okay.
but I guess the audit is it's blessed, so there's some more reliance on audited numbers than there are the financial statements prepared by the government.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else?
So on the second slide is a picture of our income statement for the year, and as you might notice, our expenditures for September are almost the same as our revenues, and part of that has to do with the end of the year accrual of expenditures to make sure we're capturing all of our payables.
Sure. Okay.
The next slide is a picture from FY18 through FY22, which shows our revenue levels as well as our expenditure levels from year to year. Our expenditures have been pretty much the same year over year. I think probably the biggest bump this year would be in our power expenditures. The next slide is a picture comparing this year and last year's water revenue and demand. As we emerge from the COVID pandemic, you'll see our residential, the piece of the pie related to the residential customer class going down as our government and commercial picks up the pace. The next slide is wastewater. The flows look pretty much the same as water, but because of the way we charge our residential customers, the wastewater revenues look a little different. But again, the residential customers are contributing less to the pie as our commercial and government sectors pick up increase in demand. This is a slide that's comparing our water demand and wastewater flows over the last 3 years. As you can see, we haven't quite recovered to our pre-pandemic demand.
Okay.
And then this is just a picture at the end of the year of our 10 largest water and wastewater customers. I apologize, we weren't able to get this into board books. But I just wanted to point out that, our larger customers are government and the hotels for water. We and Guam Power topped the list, followed by a number of the hotels, and I think the only other government on the list is UOG, which I think is number 9. And then for wastewater, the larger customers are the federal government, and then DOE and Guam Power, and then followed by the hotels.
Okay. I'm surprised. I didn't realize the military is that big for
wastewater.
For wastewater. When we did our recent rate cost of service, did we do a cost of service?
Yes.
Right? Did we review the charge to the military?
Yes, we did, and the Navy intervened and asked that the rates that we charged them mirror those of the government of Guam, and so that's what ended up happening.
Okay.
So the military is charged the same as Gov Guam.
Okay.
The next slide shows a picture of our expenditures FY22 compared to FY21. Again, about the same. Depreciation and power have increased year over year, with the rest of the expenditures about the same. The next slide just shows a picture of our revenue against our demand. And following that is a picture showing our collection ratio against our revenues. So I believe we're ending the year with about a 99% collection ratio.
Okay.
And then following that is our AR balances, a little bit different from what Chris showed you earlier. The chart on the left shows our AR balances, including inactive accounts, and the one on the right is without. So as you move the inactive accounts, the percentage of accounts that are current are higher.
Okay.
The next slide was something that, I don't know if you can see this very well, but Commissioner Sanchez talked about how much of each revenue dollar goes towards debt service. And so in 2018, about 25 cents on the dollar went to debt service, and we're projecting in 2023 it'll increase to 37 cents.
That's a huge percentage.
Yeah, more than a third.
That's going to be your
More than
biggest
a
use of cash, I think. Bigger than payroll, or bigger than power, bigger than anything else.
And then the last slide is just our debt service, and you'll recall that between 22 and 23, we're going to see a jump of almost $6 million,
Okay.
5.6 million.
Okay.
And that was
That's it.
Unless you have any questions.
No. Okay. Well, we may have questions at the meeting.
Sure.
But that's fine. Is there anything else that we need to cover, or are we done? That's it?
I forgot to mention that the 5.5% increase went into place for our October billing.
For October.
Yeah.
So all your October, starting with meters
Red
on October 1st, right?
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how that helps us. We need all the help we can get. We're very close to our debt service coverage. Not good. Okay. Any other questions, commissioners? No. Mike, do you have any question?
Mr. Chair, just on the 5% increase, was there any sort of communication that went out to the housekeeper regarding
Yes, there is one that is going to start going out for the bill cycle starting this week. So there was a little bit of a delay in getting it out, but it's a 4-page trifold, so it's actually on an 11 by 17 piece of paper that will fold into like a booklet with 4 pages. And it's basically frequently asked questions, about, everything to do with the rate increase and the billing. So that should start appearing in customers' bills this week.
Did you also include a sample bill of some sort?
Yes, there's
Okay.
sample bills.
Okay,
I do have one copy here.
okay, okay. Mike, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, motion to adjourn? So move. Second? Thank you.
Thank you.